Hello, everybody. Welcome to part 70 of my story. Days on this lockdown, we're being called out, and I'm not sure how many facilities at the same time that FMC Carswell women were released from their lockdown were also released through the BOP. I know some facilities did stay on lockdown during this George Floyd civil unrest time. I remember we come back out to the compound, and I just remember being mentally and physically just drained, because the most that we can do in our rooms for the last 8 days was wait on staff, which almost never happened. We would receive our breakfast bag, which would have 2 milks, some cereal, fruit, and they will move on. We would get our lunch, 4 slices of bread, bologna, maybe some cheese, maybe some peanut butter and jelly, spoiled fruits, and spoiled vegetables. Then we would get the same thing for our dinner bags. And this was going on for a while in the BOP. 10 slices of bread every single day. The inmates with health risk factors were now gaining a lot of weight. I remember going around and just being grateful that the story that was unfolding before me at the camp wasn't actually my story, because even though I went on like 3 lockdowns this whole pandemic, there were people who stayed on lockdown for nearly 2 years. So, I come out of my room and stuff, and the first thing that I want to do is I want to make phone calls and use the email, because we hadn't been allowed to do any of that. We had no TV. We had no email use. We had no phone use. The only thing we could do was sit in our rooms with our crew and basically just make small talk. The days drug on very, very long, and everybody was pretty much sad because there was no ice and there was no hot water. So basically, and there was no laundry. So basically, we was thugging it. So while we're going through this lockdown on top of a lockdown, our Senate Judiciary Committee is having a whole hearing. And most of this hearing has a lot to do with the George Floyd situation, has a lot to do with Trump's friends and affiliates being released during CARES Act, as well as the death of this Andrea Circle Bearer at Carswell, who I've talked about in the last 2 videos. So basically, they're asking this director of the BOP, like, what happened? How did y'all drop the ball in this situation? And he really doesn't have an definitive answer to it. However, our then Senator, Kamala Harris, says that this case highlights how there's 2 separate justice systems, which is true, because somebody like Andrea Circle Bearer, who didn't have money, who didn't have attorneys, who went to prison, who should have qualified for CARES Act, who should have been able to go home and deliver her baby and also be a mother to her kids, was now gone from this earth. While Trump's friends and affiliates, associates who barely stepped foot in prison, one who had a very lengthy sentence, are both free now. No questions asked, they're out of there. So, although CARES Act had been implemented, the prison system method for evaluating the risk posed by inmates underscored racial disparities, which is true, because when they met at this hearing, they basically said that only 7% of African American inmates qualified for CARES Act versus 30% of white American prisoners. So when we're released back to the compound, of course, we're trying to help out in any and every way as possible. We know we hadn't had a lot of things. There has been no commissary, so we're getting these commissary slips passed out. They're telling us that we're going to be able to buy, at least hygiene and coffee. So everybody's kind of excited about that. At this point of the pandemic, everything is basically coming from the FCI. I'm having to walk to the back gate with 2 other inmates almost every day and get these big laundry carts and bring them over to the compound, and we're going from side to side filling them with laundry, where they give us these ties, like when you go to the cleaners, to hook your clothing on with your name. And so we bring it back to the back gate, they bring it inside the facility, they're washing our items, and they're bringing it back to us at the camp at this time. A lot of us don't like the idea of that, because we're sending over things such as our grades, and things are getting lost and they're not coming back. However, the BOP, not responsible. But it's the only chance that most inmates have at getting clean laundry. Myself and the pandemic sanitation crew were able to use the washrooms at the camp to wash our stuff every single day, because we are coming into contact with people who possibly have been exposed to COVID, or who could possibly have or have been affected with COVID. We returned back to this compound. We just gave y'all each $25 bonuses, which will show up on y'all next paycheck. So none of the work details are moving around or going to work at this time, other than a sanitation worker. So there's the budget. There's budget there where they're able to give us this money. However, the people across the street and somewhere in between the BOP find out that our counselors who are in our unit team who are pro-inmate have given us this, and they're not too happy about it. And I remember them calling us in and telling us how they were very upset and telling them not to do it again, that we were out of our rooms all day long, able to move around and work. If we didn't like the 12 cents that we were receiving an hour, then we can go back inside our rooms. And I remember one of the case managers at the camp, she has a big heart for the inmates. She wanted to see us all go home. And if it was up to her, basically, she would have signed the paperwork to send us all home. But, she couldn't do that. She was basically in tears saying how if they paid y'all $1 million for all the work that y'all doing right now, it still would not be worth it. Also, during the pandemic, the Bureau of Prisons some kind of way came up with this plan that they would send over all these face masks for the inmates who were incarcerated in federal prison. And I remember they're lining you up, telling you 2 masks each, and having us go around to the rooms and giving out these masks. And these were the flimsiest cloth masks imaginable. Basically, if we could have made something ourselves, it would have came out a whole lot better. None of the masks could fit our face. They were falling down off of your face. You couldn't keep them up. And if they caught you with it falling below your nose, they were yelling and screaming at you. And it was something that you basically couldn't help.